The hunting of sesame in the open grassland takes great skill. These are the fastest antelope in Africa, but even they cannot always avoid the lions that hunt under the cover of darkness. For the lionesses, this early phase of adapting to new males brings another, more forbidding element into play. Masses of hyenas soon gather and swarm in among the lions, quick to realize that the males are otherwise engaged.
It was a new experience for this pride. They had been protected by the constant guardianship of a male.
During these takeovers, the noise overwhelmed me, and often as they all ignored our presence, we would sit in awe of the viciousness of the battle going on around us.
Other interlopers had been taking advantage of the old male's demise. They were the three males' first target.
Splitting up, circling, and alternating attacks is an effective tactic for the three males to trounce the competition and establish themselves as the only new challengers. The old male is drawn to the disturbance in a misguided attempt to dispel any threat, but runs into a trap. Even the victorious can be fatally injured during these male fights, so both animals yield at the first sign of submission. Others benefit from the lion's preoccupation. The old male is beaten, toppled from his position as the owner of this land. With a quick success against the male, the new males now face the much harder task of dominating the 8 lionesses. Lionesses sometimes disband and reject new males, but more often, their submission is inevitable. By submitting, the females invite their aggressors not to attack.
For weeks, tension reigned in Savuti, but one by one, the females gave in and responded to the males. At first, it was hard for us to tell the three males apart. All were light-colored, hinting at a common father. We named the males eventually, using the Setswana names, Sadidi, meaning cold, from the look in his eyes. Tuna, the large one. And Nyatsi, the lover, who immediately launched himself into the mating.
Within days, all the males are locked in a profusion of mating. 3 males with 8 lionesses to attend to is a heavy schedule. Matings involve a frequency of over 150 copulations per female. Each female is mated over the course of 1 week, and little time is spared for feeding. The old male seems reluctant to accept his fate, reluctant to leave the security of a known territory. With his females submitting to the new males, the ousted male must look to new horizons and a lonely existence. Within 6 months of their arrival, the males are fathers. Females have started appearing from different directions, each bringing her cubs out of isolation and into the group. Usually, a system of synchronized estrus, pregnancy, and births produces cubs of the same age. It is an excellent survival mechanism that allows for communal nursing, rearing, and learning. These cubs are mostly indistinguishable during their rough and tumble games. Probably, even their own mothers can't always tell them apart. Once introduced to the pride, they all become part of a huge cub community, learning by mimicking their mothers. Nearly 4 months after these last cubs were born, the last female, Leborni, meaning light, isolates herself in the hills, as the others had before her. Behind the rock walls, she too has given birth. Her 3 cubs are much younger than the others, never a good start in life. Within hours of their birth, they are exposed to the hardships of extreme temperatures and rough handling. One cub lies separate from the others, neither suckling nor exploring its new world, a sickling in a harsh place. Shortly after the birth, Le Borgne decides to move them away from the smell of blood and their birthplace. Delicately held between her jaws, the cubs know intuitively not to struggle and hang almost lifeless during the move. A slender mongoose is an unlikely hunter of lions, but it chooses the weak cub and attacks it by biting deep into its ear. Before the cub can be eaten alive by the mongoose, Le Borgne returns for her next shuttle. But strangely, after smelling both cubs, she removes the healthy one and never returns.
Perhaps we should have known then that the story of this lioness and her cubs was to be an unusual one. But Savuti is a place like no other in Africa. It seems to breathe hope into you every dawn, but releases a haunting fear into everything, each night.
Leopards do well to stay out of reach, for the lions of darkness rule the night. With 3 new hungry males around, the pride's hunting patterns take a new turn. The males are quick to drive home their dominance at the kills. The lionesses have not learned the futility of contesting the kill, or even waiting for the males to finish. Their power struggle will leave no pickings. Lions don't have the same tree climbing abilities as leopards, and she is safe up high, for the moment. But the frantic activity is too disturbing, and the leopardess slips away. Lions transform the instant the kill is over. Competition turns to gentle, mutual grooming.
We notice that these males shed an unusual bond, a testament to their success. Neither of us had ever seen males display such affection like this before. No males ever matched them again.
The lionesses quickly adapt to their new circumstances, slipping away to hunt for themselves. The hunting of sesame in the open grassland takes great skill. These are the fastest antelope in Africa, but even they cannot always avoid the lions that hunt under the cover of darkness. For the lionesses, This early phase of adapting to new males brings another, more forbidding element into play. Masses of hyenas soon gather and swarm in among the lions, quick to realize that the males are otherwise engaged.
It was a new experience for this pride. They had been protected by the constant guardianship of a male.
During these takeovers, the noise overwhelms me, and often as they all ignored our presence, we would sit in awe of the viciousness of the battle going on around us.
Under the watch of the new males, the pride flourishes. The Borne's two surviving cubs, Tau and Lebu, have made it to 5 weeks. Physically, they are more like miniature lions now, with tail tufts and black marks behind their ears. Le Borgne is still attentive and a good mother by lion standards. Their eyes are now amber brown, no longer blue. They are showing the first signs of character. The young male is surprisingly bold and more playful than his sister. But it is time for a new adventure, a time of change. They come down from the shelter of their castle of rocks. When cubs are introduced to the pride for the first time, everyone is nervous. The cubs innocently approach each female with unusual forwardness. Too bold an interest by the females is met by a warning growl from Le Borgne. Some of the pride have never seen such small cubs before. The older cubs are curious about these miniatures, and vice versa, but they cannot restrain their rough responses. The most dangerous moment comes for all cubs when they approach the males. Not all males accept young cubs. Sididi's response is cool, but Tau's direct approach works well with Nyatsi, and he is accepted. Their removal from the hills came just in time.
That same night, we came across the disturbing sight of the old male, back in Savuti, like a spectre haunting the hills of his old territory. If he had been a day earlier, Tau and Lebu may have fallen to his aggression. Males often do kill cubs of other males, a way of maintaining only their own genetic offspring.
Tucked away under a bush, the cubs huddle together silently, without attracting unwanted attention, while the females go off hunting. Between migrations, the hunting can be sparse. This year, the zebras are late. Females have to try for whatever they can get. The vulnerable cubs wait and listen for their call. When the cubs hear Le Borgne and the signal of success, they eagerly leave their hiding place. The kill is for them, not as much for food as for the training, and it is brought back alive. Immediately, the cubs are transformed into a competing mass, fighting for a small piece of the spring hare. In among the bundle of needle-sharp teeth and razor-like claws, young Tao has one of his first experiences of this intense competition. His own instincts are sharp, and he latches on to the spring hare, but he is soon overwhelmed. An older cub defends against the adults, but leaves an opening. Tao scrambles in and makes off with the spoils of the day. An opportunist already. Like gallant knights in a medieval legend, the Lions of Darkness stake out their territory defiantly. Sididi's cold eyes pierce the landscape, searching for any sign of intruders who may covet this fine hunting ground. Perhaps the scent of the old male lurking around has made them wary. He has had difficulty finding any source of food. Trailing the pride now, as they make their kills, he takes the opportunity while the males are away to slip in and scavenge a meal. As the seasons change, Savuti comes alive again in its diversity. A mother porcupine protects her spiny offspring against the lions who are ready to attempt anything. The porcupine's dance is a delicate maneuver to keep them at quill's length. The lion's only chance is to dance along and wait for an opening. It can be a dangerous game for both. A quill lodged in the mouth could spell death for any lion. The porcupines are safe tonight because of the impala, and the serious hunting begins.
We had no idea just how important a night this would be in our lives and for the lions around us. An example of the way Savuti can suddenly turn everything around.
Without males around, they have the chance to feed and experience competition at its extreme. Cubs are often brought into the kills early in their lives. cubs scatter into the darkness, some to the trees, others running vulnerably in the shadows with hunger-crazed hyenas. Tao and Lebu have been separated and find safety up a termite mound, transfixed by the scene around them. Leboni is locked in conflict with the hyenas. When she calls to them, Lebu goes to her. She and the older cubs are confused, scattered, and caught in indecision. Most of the females have already discreetly retreated, but some cubs remain behind until the battle explodes into its final throes. The females have to wait for the hyenas to finish before regrouping. Tao has developed a fondness for high places. His sister, Lebu, should have done the same. After the hyena attack, one lioness from the pride lingers near the water. She is badly wounded. It is Leboni. Deep wounds and a broken jaw will prevent her from feeding forever.
Leboni's fading strength was enough to ensure that Tao would soon be an orphan. It's after tragedies exactly like these that the lion pride system often shows its effectiveness. But for Tao, this was to be a difficult road ahead.
If he had been born among the first batch of cubs, he would have hardly missed his mother and sister. He would have been just another identical cub in the pride, not a smaller plaything. His ability to bounce back may help a little. Over the next few days, Tao spends more time with the males, especially Sedidi. For the other cubs, this would be like playing with fire. From only inches above the ground, his perspective of the world must be distorted. A world where almost everything is a giant. The males split off from the females, slipping away on another far-reaching patrol. The pride heads north, to areas they haven't visited since their cubs were born. Only now are their cubs large enough to keep up. Most of them, at least. Tao struggles to keep pace, and he lags behind. His closest association is now with the males, but his obvious instinct is to stay with the females. One female hears his distant calls and stops to wait. But Tao is a cub born out of synchrony with the system, and she must continue with the pride herself. It's not long before he finds himself alone and totally lost. The night is filled with the strangeness of Africa.
For us, it was a long, cold night, a night filled with anguish, listening for the slightest rustle in the grass. We found ourselves caught up in our own emotions, fighting the temptation to intervene, but resolute in our belief that we must allow the natural order to prevail, and wait it out with young Tao.
The three lions of darkness, Tona, Nyatsi, and Sedidi, the Cold One, are still masters of all Savuti. Miles across the grassland, from Tao's hiding place, his pride has continued their search for fresh hunting and find it at the head of the zebra migration. For 2 nights, Tao has escaped to the same crook in a tree, having avoided any contact with anything.
Early on the 3rd day, he heard the familiar lapping sounds of lions drinking from a pool not far from his tree. We knew before he did that these were the wrong lions. The small band of nomads visits the area from time to time. Tao's eager greetings went unacknowledged, and when he got too near, he was warned off. So far, he had only known his own pride, and we followed him back to his tree.
Out in the grassland, the electricity flashes boldly around the pride and their kill, heralding the coming storm. Somewhere out there, Tao is being pelted by the same weather. He has taken shelter on the ground, out of the swaying tree. And when the storm abates, he creeps out again. A lone lioness emerges, and Tao rushes to greet her. But it is a single nomad. And Tao is in danger of being snapped in two by her threatening jaws. Only his submissive gestures save him now, and she leaves him alone to wander again in the dark. Climbing out of harm's way again, Tao becomes witness to another spectacle of Savuti's darkness. Hyenas are hunting tonight. He stays up the termite mound until dawn, when the beauty of this place seems to shrug off the strangleholds of the night. In the morning, distant calls tell of lions following the zebras that surround him. The males are roaming with the rest of the pride, no more than 2 miles away. Tao sets off towards them through the herds of zebras. The wet grass slows him down and tires him out. Zididi is the first to hear his calls, and when Tao emerges from the grass among them, his absence is hardly acknowledged. With his characteristic abandon of decorum, he greets his family, and they greet him.
Seeing Tao back with the pride again made us feel grateful that we had resisted the temptation to intervene when he was lost. We are really observers, not participants in this natural drama.
The females accept his arrival as they accepted his disappearance. The older cubs anxiously await their chance to greet Tao. In a week, their age differences appear even more extreme than before, the older of the cubs having surged ahead in their development and their roughness. Tao is now used as a new plaything, a painful experience for him, and he becomes a curiosity item for the older cubs. Since Tao is now more than 7 weeks old, it is doubtful if a living mother would even try to help. For days, Tao is badgered constantly, chased relentlessly, and slowly worn down. His only refuge is among the adults, and even that is without great reassurance. Another tragic figure is in Savuti again. The old male, ousted nearly a year ago by the 3 lions of darkness, still haunts his old territory. In his 14th year, his blank eyes are fading. His body has begun decomposing. His tail hangs by a thread from an old injury. With no more strength to hunt, he has turned to scavenging. Only the extremely old and desperate will eat a hyena, and even that is difficult for the old male, whose teeth are now of little use. Tao still wanders around constantly from one member of the pride to another, perhaps looking for some reassurance and protection from the bullying older cubs. Responses are cool. Nyatsi is defending the scraps from the kill of the night. Tao is excluded from the action because of his size. The older cubs are intent on testing the male's tolerance. At least one of the cubs has a lesson to learn. The attack is serious, more than a token reprimand. Ignoring the noisy conflict nearby, Tao finds his companion for the night.
Our attention was only later drawn back to the older cub. A damaged lower back was a hard lesson that would cost him his life. Sometimes, what seems like a collage of senseless hardship is simply a fragment of the life cycle of lions. Weeks after the last sighting, the old male appeared with the pride again. Only when he got up to move towards them was the full horror of his condition revealed to us.
His tail has rotted off. He is no more than a lion's skin draped over bones. Even the faintest breath of wind tests his balance. The few paces needed to reach the females are too much, and he collapses, never to rise again.
It may never be possible for us to fully understand all these animals. Do they have feelings of emotion that are at all similar to our own? Some may believe in coincidence. Others may say the old male came back to the pride to die. Only one lioness came close to the old male that night. We wondered if she even recognized who it was and what had happened. Or was her response just curiosity, which so often plays mischief with cats?
The hyenas display much more than a casual curiosity. With their usual intense interest in devouring lions, they arrange themselves around the old male, displaying a strange rolling behavior. This may be a way of accumulating a common scent, but with only a few individuals, it seems less functional and more indulgent. Within a few hours, only his scent will remain. All other evidence of the old male will be rolling in the wind. Ghostly shapes dance in the moonlight. Each rising full moon heralds another month in the reign of the Lions of Darkness. The full moon dictates their hunting success. Any kills must be made before the brightness steals their cover. Tona is defensive, allowing only the cubs to feed this time. Tao is older now, holding his own against the larger cubs and the males. As the months pass, the male's relationship grows stronger. Tao is now 6 months old, and although he is growing rapidly, he still spends more time with his fathers than the older cubs. The males need their closeness now more than ever. The average tenure of males is usually only 2 years, and these have been in control for over a year already. Now, they are using their unusual bond to form a united front against any potential challengers. And each night, there is the endless hunting. Night after night, the prey is knocked to the ground. It is Tao's first buffalo, and as always, he is eager to learn. A stranglehold ensures a quiet death. The huge meal goes a long way to filling their bellies. Tao constantly experiments now, learning each day. Sadidi and Tao have a good relationship. Tao is friendly, and Sadidi, never one to show too much warmth, growls at his indiscretions. As the day turns hot, the dew on the grass turns to humidity, and fatigue sets in. Sadidi and Tao are the only ones that seem to have any energy at all. The defense of their food from the vultures has the inevitable mark of a lost cause. Each day presents a new adventure for the lions. Never one to let any opportunity crawl away unnoticed, Tao investigates anything. He is apparently unharmed by the older cub's bullying. Life for him seems to be a series of adventures and new experiences. They have learned to leave him alone. Tortoiseshells are almost impossible for lions to penetrate. The older cubs learned that lesson some time ago. But Tao is still fascinated with the new shape. Now, his knowledge of tortoise hunting matches the others. Just after the November full moon, when the first new buffaloes march in, a wave of change ripples through Savuti. The older cubs have attracted the attention of the males. Their mothers follow up with attacks of their own. This aggression by the females is lion language, telling the teenagers that it's time to venture out on their own before the males do them serious harm. Tao is too young to go with the older cubs when they are finally expelled. This harsh behavior has been sparked by the first sign that the females are ready to mate again. The subadults are condemned to a nomadic existence, for a few years at least. With new cubs soon on the way, time is now against Tao, the only remaining youngster. Zebra stallions chasing a passing hyena is a disturbance he can't resist. Tao has just 3 months to learn all he can about surviving alone again. His clumsy approach is a clue to his inexperience, and when he finds himself caught up in the middle of the dazzling stripes, he is confused. Unsure of whether to hunt or to escape the stampede, he charges around, but the zebras are daunting opponents, not easy prey. Tao is still a cub himself, and his rescue by a female from the pride is timely.
It was hard for us to imagine that Tao would transform into a formidable male like Sadidi, a master of the domain. Before he could become the next generation of pride males, he had a long journey ahead, even with the right genes and some special survival skills.
One role the adult males play is in the hunting of large prey. An adult buffalo bull is separated from the herd, and the hunt is on. Even as Tao witnesses these struggles, his race against time is nearly over. The first signs of a young mane are showing, an unmistakable signal to the pride males, whose territorial displays increase daily. Head rubbing spreads their scent as warnings against young intruders. Tao is inevitably caught up in the process of expulsion. Even Sididi drives home the message. It's time to leave. The moment has come when the reason for the male's existence is truly revealed. In Tao, they cast their genes out into the system. His success in life will be theirs as well, their legacy for the future.
One night, as we pondered how Savuti changes a little with each passing line, we came across Tao again, as alone as he was those first nights as a lost cub.
He is too young to join the other sub-adults. They all linger on the fringe of their birth territories, reluctant to step out into the unknown. Their hunting is reduced to spring hares again. The fierce competition keeps Tao away.
This was really the last time we ever saw Tao. From time to time we would see a silhouette on an anthill or catch a glimpse in the shadows, but they were all just too fleeting to be sure.
The three lions of darkness are in the prime of their lives. Wearing the scars of their conquests on their faces like medals, they are caught at the peak of an endless cycle. Someday soon, the time will come when from out there, a young challenger will explode into their lives like a nightmare, shattering their dreams and invading their kingdom. The next generation.